Speak through these words if they are worthy, Lord, and if they are not, speak in spite of them. Amen. The hymn Rex picked was very poignant toward the sermon because that one line says, such a love as endeth strife. So thank you for that. Most of you already heard, because Episcopalians talk. But if you didn't hear, it might surprise you to hear I had a disagreement with somebody at Pride Fest. But not the kind of disagreement one might expect at Pride Fest. Mind you, I was just sitting in our booth minding my own business. And a young man came into the booth with who I presumed was his significant other. And he spun the swag wheel and he got I think a bracelet. And within a minute of that, he asked, why do you have female clergy? I had not been asked that very question so directly in about 30 years. And so I said, why not have female clergy? And he pulled from his quiver this arrow, because in Timothy it says, I interrupted him, rude, but important and necessary. I interrupted him and said I wasn't going to argue with him. It seems he had come prepared for conflict, where most of us were there celebrating God's love and celebrating queer pride. Usually those are the kinds of questions religious people ask me at Pride Fest. So never let anyone ever tell you that Episcopalians take the easy route. It's a criticism leveled at us that we like soft messages and warm fuzzies, and that we like to avoid standing up for things that are right. And you'll hear from some that we're more about the God is love stuff, which to some people sounds hippy-dippy, that we're more about God is love than we are about the God is just stuff. Or you may hear someone say that our cherished via media, which is Latin for the middle way, that we use that as a cop-out so that we'll stay in between and not make a stand on something. It's as if we are following the words of Huey Lewis when he said, we'll say anything to avoid a fight. People say that about us and our cherished via media, but nothing is further from the truth. In his book, A People Called Episcopalians, John Westerhoff nails it. He writes, key to the Anglican tradition is that it attempts to bind together aspects of the church that in some other traditions are allowed to become polarized. Anglicanism seeks to hold truths together in theology and practice in order that we may hold people together. That's exactly how we ended the bloody religious conflict in England in the 1500s between the Calvinists and the Catholics. A conflict where many people were beheaded. Our spiritual ancestors in England, they had real and they had literal skin in the game. To proclaim a faith in those days, depending on who was king or queen, was as good as asking for a death sentence. And so we, our people, we found a way into the middle. We found the middle way. We threaded a microfine needle between Calvinist and Catholic beliefs and practices. We decided that we would focus on common worship and cease to fight over theology. We chose common prayer over conflict. Today, in the book of James, so eloquently lectured by Maddie, we learned a take on religious conflict. It says, where there is envy and selfish ambition, there will also be disorder and wickedness of every kind. But the wisdom from above is first pure. Then the wisdom from above is peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy, full of good fruits. The wisdom from above has not a trace of partiality or hypocrisy. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace for those who make peace. Those conflicts and disputes among you, where do they come from? Do they not come from your cravings that are at war within you? It can be very hard to be firm in faith sometimes. I know that it's hard to voice a theological view in the face of intentional antagonism. It's hard when someone plans out their argument in advance and you didn't even know there was going to be an argument. Taking a side is hard. But I submit to you that taking a stand in the middle way between opposing forces can be even harder. In widely divided and in deeply divided conflicts, whether they're social or global or political or theological, there are many forces pulling at everyone to pick a side, even to declare an enemy. And the middle way where one holds compassion for everyone in a complicated conflict, a conflict full of real gravitas, real harm, that middle way often looks like no one's land. It can feel quite lonely in the middle way because so many insist that there is no middle way. You are for us or you are against us, period. There are those who are in very serious conflicts who insist that if you are in the middle, then you are their enemy. You are the problem. To them, you are worse than the ones that declared were their enemy to begin with. In these conflicts, you hear language and you're given the image of battle and war, and you envision forces on opposing sides hurling weapons at each other, metaphoric or otherwise. Obviously, anyone trying to stand in between those two forces is going to get hit first. Standing on the middle way is extremely risky when other people think they are at war. Now, I don't know all of the tactics and I don't know all of the strategies that you should employ to stay safe when all you're trying to do is be in a relationship with people who are in conflict with each other. But I know I found James' words today very valuable. The wisdom from above is pure first, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy, full of good fruits, without a trace of partiality or hypocrisy. We Anglicans do make major stands for what we believe is God's truth and for what we see as God's justice. And we don't all always take the same stance. That's the price we pay for the faith we choose, a faith that does not insist that it has all the answers. Often we stand firm in places that seem to be illogical to others who view the whole world from a binary perspective. The middle catches flack from both sides. The middle seems counterintuitive when differing views are forced into being false opposites. Black, white, male, female, Jewish, Muslim, alien, neighbor, Christian, gay. An overly binary view of the world can make enemies out of everyone. There are people hurting everywhere. There are people in real pain on all sides of all conflicts, especially in the conflicts that are seen as completely binary. There's pain, I submit to you, that many of us as Christians would just as soon eradicate, because there's pain in these conflicts that is not only unchristian, it is unnecessary. Yeah, we say God is love, but Christian love is not all sweetness and light. It's not all warm fuzzies. When you and I say God is love, we don't mean God gives us chocolate on St. Valentine's Day. When you and I say God is love, we mean Jesus Christ took a beating and died an agonizing death in front of his mother, in front of other people who loved him on Good Friday. And I remember that Jesus didn't say, Father, smite them. He said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. The path of real peace, whether it's spiritual peace or earthly peace, is hard. The path of peace can be treacherous. Never let anyone tell you that Episcopalians are go along to get along, wishy-washy, weak-willed servants of Christ. Standing for truth and for justice and the immense love of God is hard, especially when we're trying to live it out in a world full of opposing, even violent forces. Be safe and be wise, but be mindful that James wrote today that there is hope. The wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without a trace of partiality or hypocrisy. A harvest of righteousness is sown in peace for those who make peace. Pray with me. Guide us, God, to submit ourselves to you on the path of peace, even though peace rarely is peaceful. Amen.
Amen.